welcome, dear friends, to Cardiac Radio and another program on Inner Journey with Paul and Stephen. We're talking about the Epistles, chapter 7. You and I have been on this journey of self knowledge by looking at Paul of Tarsus, Saul of Tarsus in his transformation, and we are getting to know of ourselves. As Emmanuel said in the preface, this book is not a mere historical book. It's actually about our relationship with the Christ. We have been personally called to work with the Christ. And what are we doing with it? We're expecting easy call, easy transformation. It's never going to happen. As we're going to see in Saul of Tarsus' journey, he reinvents himself. He literally changes his name. He changes his profession. He changes everything inside and out. And we're here at a very moment in which, after many years traveling with Barnabas and friends, Silas, Timothy, John Mark, visiting Jerusalem and other churches, the main church in Antioch, we're going to see that, as Emmanuel describes, the valorous preacher left Athens. Remember when Paul was at Athens? So many people believe that teaching Spiritism with science is going to make a difference. As Emmanuel says, Paul of Tarsus started to understand the reason why the Master preferred Galilee with his humble and simple cooperators of the heart. Now he understood better the reason for the Christ's sincere word about salvation, and he deciphered Jesus' predilection for the unprivileged. And in a conversation with friends, he says we have to go. We have now to go to other locations. But people are saying, but you are sick, right? Timothy is there, and Timothy is like, but you need to recover. And he says, while we can work, we need to refine our work as an elixir for all of our problems. Plus, it is just to take benefit of time and opportunity. And then he says an immortal sentence. I've always been convinced that God is always in urgent need of a job well done. So this is our first lesson for our inner journey. You may say, oh, but I went through so much in my life. Now it's my time to relax, to enjoy. But God is calling us for more. We're not on earth to enjoy. Yes, we will enjoy the learning and the growth, but we're not here to sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. We need to put the show on the road ourselves, especially for people who say, oh, but he's so young, she's so young, and that's when we make the most of it. Youth is for good works, not for waste of time. Retiring years are not for us to relax, are for us to seek with all the experience we have to help others. And to be in this synchronicity with God. So Paul of Tarsus talking to young Timothy, they walked 60 kilometers. It's a lot of miles there. But Paul of Tarsus was happy. And when he reached Achaia, you remember, right? They go to Corinth. You remember, he recalls Abigail, he recalls Jeziel, and there he's going to meet Aquila. Aquila, exactly. And we're going to see that he finds his old friends, Aquila and Prisca. They hug each other, and that's the best part of it. Once we're aligned, we find the proper friends. Sometimes we have bad friends because we are in the wrong track of life. Good friends will show up when we are on the right track. And in Corinth, the city was quote unquote very sinful. But as Emmanuel explains, there is much work to be done there just because of that reason. And Paul of Tarsus is there. He's preaching at the synagogue. And of course, people become outraged until a Roman named Titus Justus comes and started helping. Mhm. He started helping and giving them donations, but supporting them, protecting them. And it was then that the church of Corinth was founded. And as Emmanuel says, the church of Corinth produced some of the most rich fruits of spirituality. So when you go to the New Testament and you read the epistles to the Corinthians, that's the community we're talking about, right? And it's one of the most beautiful passages. Well, as Paul was there in the church of Corinth, we get to know that there is much, and he's feeling not capable to attend to all the calls from other churches elsewhere. So, what does he do? In silence, during the night, when the church of Corinth was deserted, people were home sleeping, he, Paul of Tarsus, plead to Jesus with tears in his eyes that he wouldn't lack the needed help to fulfill his task fully. And Jesus comes in person and says, "Don't be afraid. Proceed teaching the truth and do not stay quiet because I am with you." Paul of Tarsus is crying. And Jesus goes on and says, "Do not be tormented by the needs of service. It is natural that you can't personally be everywhere at the same time, but it's possible to tend to all the needs of others simultaneously by the powers of the Spirit." And very mildly, Jesus continued, "You can resolve this problem by writing to all the brothers and sisters in my name. Those of goodwill will understand that the value of the task is not in the personal presence of the missionary, but in the spiritual content of their word, their exemplification, and their lives." And Stephen is going to be with you throughout the rest of your mission. What is the lesson here for us? Have we realized that we can't be everywhere with all of our family members, with all of our friends? So what do? We'll be with people by the power of Spirit. First, by praying for people. Second, by using the resources we have at hand. Nowadays, our epistles are the emails, the text messages, the posts in our social media. This is the way we can be present in people's lives, even though we cannot be physically there. Now, question for us: are we so materialistic that we don't value that so much because we wanted the person to be here? So, what is more important? The message, the vibration, or the presence? Of course, if we can be there, it's another thing. But Paul of Tarsus couldn't be there all the time. So, this is the second lesson for us in our inner journey. Sometimes we can't be there. For example, you have a child, they are in a field trip, they are in college, they are at school. We can pray for them and send them a text, encourage them in their daily lives, loved ones that are far away from us. So, this is the second lesson in our inner journey in chapter 7 of part 2 of the book, Paul and Stephen. Well, Paul of Tarsus was so happy, and now we're going to learn another lesson. Yes, because did you know that Paul never wrote those letters by himself alone? The first one he wrote was with two young men, Timothy and Silas, the partnership with the youth. Plus, he was always writing with his friends, like in a true mediumistic effort. The only epistle that he wrote by himself was the one to the Hebrews. And Stephen was always on the behind the scenes, inspiring him and them in the name of God. The spiritual message, the essence, came from the Christ through the loving contribution of Stephen, says Emmanuel, and with the togetherness of the team. So, this is the third lesson for us in this chapter. Are we good at team working? Because we love to be good alone, fly solo, but there is great beauty in team working. And we will not progress in this life if we do not dedicate ourselves to the good together with a team. Jesus, as perfect as he was, he developed a team. He put together a team. Chico Xavier, amazing medium, he always worked in a team. Divaldo Franco, 97 years of age to date, he still works in a team at his Spiritist Center in Salvador, Bahia. So who are we to work alone if the Christ himself never did? If Paul of Tarsus never did? So this is the third main lesson for us. But to work in a team, we need to polish our communication skills. We need to better at communicating with people who are in our team. I'll give you an example. In our Spiritist Center, the Spirit Side of Virginia, we, at the end of our sessions, we have been doing peanut butter jelly sandwiches to deliver to a shelter. When you do peanut butter jelly, one spreads peanut butter on one piece of bread. The neighboring friend spreads jam, jelly on another piece of bread. We put it together. Someone else is going to put it into a bag, seal it, put it in a box. Oh, but Vanessa, I can do it all by myself. I can do peanut butter, jelly, but what's the grace of the work if we don't teamwork? You can do it alone if you're alone at home. But when we're team working, we need to learn to do our share, knowing that it's unique, we can't miss it. And we need to humbly connect with the other friend who has the other half of the task. Together, we make peanut butter jelly. So that's the third question today. Are we good at team working at all? Are we? If not, we still have time to boost that in us. So here we have Paul of Tarsus observing the elevated spirit of cooperation in all the divine works. He never wrote it alone. He always had dignified friends with him, helping in inspiration, conscious that the messenger of Jesus was not alone in the task. So the letters went to all the churches, spreading the good news. And even Peter received some of the first copies that he wrote to Jerusalem. So the mediumship in the spreading of the gospel is the same as Emmanuel, as the one we do nowadays in Spiritist centers. In Spiritist centers, our mediumship is a teamwork effort. Okay? So here we have things were growing even stronger. And of course, the people in Corinth were upset. So they wanted to imprison, arrest Paul of Tarsus, and they did. And we're going to see that he was always serene, he was beaten up, and here there's a summary about all that he's done this far. And it was the first time there in Corinth, in this arrest, that he felt that ecstasy in feeling the voices of on high. At the end of the day, he was released, right? He was released and everything was fine. But of course, some people were not happy. Throughout this chapter, we're going to see him being arrested, running away, and preaching. And I want to lead us to a moment in which he goes to Ephesus, because John and Mother Mary are there and the church needs help. So he goes, and he had Aquila and Prisca with him, and he's there. He visited Mother Mary's home. This is one of the crowning moments of this chapter, because he talks to Mother Mary. He hears about, and look at this, she is not holding grudges against Saul of Tarsus because what he did to the Christians. She embraces him, and he wants to write down everything she said about Jesus, but he needed to go to Jerusalem helping Peter. Well, he then left, and we're going to see that in his journey, while some were traveling by ship or boat, he was traveling by foot, talking to people. The missionary, says Emmanuel, knew that the sincere disciple will always go through the narrow door. And he never was in dismay. He was fully surrendered to Jesus. Well, we're going to see that at some point he needs to tend to the needs of other places, and people are persecuting. And we'll see several passages here at the end of this chapter. The chapter is long, but for the sake of our inner journey, we're going to highlight in us, one, the sublimity of knowing our share and fulfilling it with diligence. Two, learning to teamwork. Today, in this inner journey with Paul and Stephen in the Epistles, we're going to ask ourselves whether or not we are ready to harmonize ourselves with the designs of the Christ by going above the call of our duty. We're not going to progress fulfilling that job description. We need to do more. And to do more is always to serve and to help others. For example, you have a house, but you don't like to share with anybody because it's so comfortable. If we are really Christ conscious, we don't care about our comfort. We will embrace those who are in need. Let's meditate on this as we stop here and ask God that all this information, all the courage, and the examples left by Paul of Tarsus can really sink in and boost in us new strength. Thank you, friends, for joining us in another program, Paul and Stephen. If you have any question, write to us at cardiacradio@gmail.com. We wish you many blessings, and until next time.